Hello, you're listening to the Career Changemaker podcast. Having the courage to leave a career that you have worked hard to build and try something else can be tough. So in each episode, we dive into key career change strategies so that you have a clear understanding of what is required to transition into a new role or a new industry without feeling like you have to start at the bottom or have to take a massive pay cut, because ain't nobody got time for that. If you are ready for frank and honest discussions about how to become a career change maker, keep listening. I'm your host, lawyer turned career strategist and executive coach, Janine Esbrand. Are you eager to get unstuck and figure out what you would actually like to do with your career next? Have you been going around in circles trying to figure it out but getting no further forward? If so, you're going to love today's sponsor, my signature group program, the Career Clarity Academy. Changing career direction can feel overwhelming and daunting, but it doesn't have to be. In my signature program, we give you clear, step-by-step, proven processes for getting completely clear on what it is that you want to do and understanding how you can leverage your existing experience and position yourself to attract and land a dream role. To find out more, head over to lightboxcoaching.com/academy. Hello. How are you doing? If you are a long-time listener or a new listener to this show, you are probably a female professional who is ready to make a change in your career. And if you are in that place where you want to make more impact and you want to have more meaning through your career, then you probably realize that you need to get clear on the vision for your career and where it is you really want to take it. You also need to identify what your unique skills and experience is so that you can leverage it fully. And you probably understand that it's important to learn how to navigate the current marketplace. Things are changing so much, and they have changed so much over the past few years, that understanding how to navigate the current landscape is truly important if you want to uncover your ideal opportunity. So you're probably aware that these are steps that you need to take, but you might be wondering, but how do I take those steps? What do I actually do and how do I move forward? So in today's episode, I want to offer some inspiration for you because I recently interviewed one of my former clients, Maddy, who has been through my career change program, and she was a project manager for 20 years. And during that time, she moved around from role to role and was coasting throughout her career, just waiting to see if she stumbled upon a role that was more interesting or exciting for her. But recently she realized that it was time to be more proactive and really take some time to be intentional about the career moves that she was making rather than falling into the next opportunity that came her way. So she made some really bold moves and stepped outside of her comfort zone, did things that she's not done before, and she's had some incredible results in terms of the belief shifts that she's experienced, how much she now feels empowered around her career and being able to make intentional choices. So in this interview, you're going to hear her share a bit about her experience and how she has been feeling as she's been going through it. And I want you to take it as inspiration. I want you to really pay attention to what it is that she's sharing about what is required to go from, I know what I need to do, but actually going ahead and taking the right action. So without further ado, let's jump into my conversation with Maddy. Hello. Welcome. I am so excited with my wonderful client, Maddy. So I really wanted to do a spotlight because there are so many people, particularly at this time, who are considering making a career move. There are lots of people who consider it, but then don't take any action towards it. So they wanted to just have a conversation with Maddy about her experience, kind of what led her to start taking action and what she's been doing over the last few months to get clarity around what it is she wants to do next in the next phase of her career. So I'm excited to dive in. So we will do that now. So Maddy, thank you for being here. I'll just take a moment to just introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Maddy Lee-Smith. I've been a project manager for 20 plus years in the sort of IT arena. I actually met Janine through a company that we both work for. So when she left and did her coaching, I was avidly watching and very keen to sort of follow what she was doing and signed up. Yeah, so that's a little bit about me.
So, Maddy, you mentioned that you've been in project management for 20 years. And I know as we've been having conversations inside of the program, you also mentioned that you've been feeling like maybe you wanted to explore something different for quite a long time. So talk to me about what led you to say, okay, I'm going to start figuring out what it is I want to do, and kind of what was making you feel that unsettled feeling for so long.
Yeah, so I think ever since I started my career, it's not been as exciting and as I wanted it to be. I think when I left university, I thought the world would be my oyster. I was really excited to start working, and it sort of just was never that exciting. I've quite quickly moved into projects as a business analyst, as a developer, and then as project management. And I found myself sort of coming home and having to fulfill my outside of work so much. I trained as a personal a fitness trainer in the gym, just to sort of work a couple of hours in the evening, really not for anything other than to fulfill my life outside of work. And I just assumed that was okay. And I just carried on. It got a bit better. Some jobs were good, some jobs weren't so good. I found that I moved around quite a bit. I look back at my history, which was one of the steps that we do with you, Janine, as you know. And actually I looked at it and found that I moved an awful lot. And there was a big thing that was there, which was I was pretty bored all the time. So every 2 years, I kind of got quite bored of things. So it was sort of not being fulfilled. And then I reached a point in my life where I have the choice now to do something different. And I felt that it was time for me to actually take that step. And more was being sort of, out there about being fulfilled in your career and how people should be happy. And I think really that for me was, the key sort of change that I needed to take.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you notice the patterns where it's like, okay, I'm leaving because I'm looking for something else, or I'm looking to feel less bored. But then again, after a few years, you're in the same position. What had you tried? So before you kind of joined the program and we started taking you through the framework that I have, what kind of things had you tried? So besides doing some different projects in the evenings and stuff like that, had you tried anything else to get clarity around what else you might do?
No, I think I'd sort of always thought about it, but I was the main breadwinner. I had, young children as well. So I've got 2 children who are now teenagers, but just assumed I couldn't change. I assumed I had to go back to the start and retrain. And when I looked at sort of options, going back to university and doing something else, it just didn't seem viable, both in terms of the loss of earnings, but in time of really not necessarily wanting to start again. When you've got a wealth of experience, you don't want to go back and start right at the beginning. You feel you've sort of moved on beyond that point. So I didn't try anything. I had thoughts and really just sort of kept thinking, well, if I, maybe the next one will be better, maybe it will be more exciting. So really, just moved around quite a bit, trying to add a bit of variety rather than actually trying to do something different.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And it's very, very common among people that I speak to, the assumption that if I want to do something else, I'm going to have to start at the bottom. So if I want to shift or change, it means I'm going to have to retrain. And you've already put so much time and effort into your career. So the idea of retraining is like, nah, I'm not going to do that. And I think a lot of people stay stuck for that reason. How has your perspective changed around that piece over the last few months?
I think I feel more enthusiastic and empowered, and certainly working with you, sort of believing that it can be done. I think going through the process, it's been great to work with other people who also are feeling the same in different careers, different walks of life, and particularly with such a career like being a lawyer and a solicitor that you've trained so long for. Actually hearing people say, well, they're not very fulfilled in certain roles as well, it makes you feel like you're not alone, which is great. You're not the only one. I think it's very easy to walk through your career thinking everyone else is having a great time, everyone else bounces out of bed in the morning going, I love what I do, and you sort of thinking, well, I feel quite alone in that. So it's been really good having other people around in the sort of the training to sort of actually talk to as well. And I think sort of the process has been fantastic to sort of actually give you belief. And it started quite gently, sort of a bit of introspection. It's getting harder, I have to say, because now it's sort of like, I've actually got to start putting myself out there. And that's the next sort of scary step. But I think that belief has been building, and you start to connect and also look around at people who've done it and talk to people that have made that change, and also tried sort of, different things, and talking to them, what as part of sort of gathering that evidence, reaching out to people and just starting to talk to them and see that it's possible. Other people can do it.
So, yeah, I think that piece around having conversations with people, I think that's part of the program that a lot of people get stuck, where it's like, look, I need you to go out and I need you to have conversations. How did you find that? Because I feel like, you're one of my staff students, you've been implementing, you've been doing the work. How did you find stepping outside of your comfort zone and then going out and having conversations with people?
I find it quite difficult initially, but once we'd gone through it and you sort of explained that, anyone pushing back, it wasn't personal. They were just busy. They didn't know you. They weren't making that decision on a personal basis. And actually I talked to some people that I came off the phone and felt that I had been sort of not inspired, or you thought, oh gosh, they made it sound like it's going to be really hard work. But then I spoke to people who really, really were, great, that reached out and actually said, they had time to talk. They also wanted what your journey was going forward. They were opened up their doors to say, come back and talk to me again if you need any further help. And I certainly came away from talking to them feeling like I could do it. Actually, I could make a change, and it was doable, and I had people who were willing to support and help. So it was hard, because I don't think it's easy to step outside and reach out to people that we don't know. But I think the framework that you provided in terms of giving a sort of how you're going to approach people, what you should sort of try and do, was just really, really helpful.
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm hearing come up a few times you've mentioned is that belief piece of like believing that it is possible, believing that you can do it. What do you think has been helpful for you in terms of increasing that belief?
I think I've spent an awful lot of time. I mean, I'm currently not working at the moment, and I've had time just to think and spend a lot of time thinking. I love the chat we had with a lady a couple of weeks ago that had a big sort of life-changing moment in her life. And she just said, one step at a time, start to sort of think about and visualize, and you can do it. And I think that's starting to sort of believe that you can do it, starting to think. I found myself thinking, oh gosh, could I do a TEDx? And I was like a TED talk and thinking, oh, what would I say? And just starting to sort of think about that makes it seems like it's possible to do. Whether it really would be, I don't know, but you just start to sort of believe a little bit more in yourself. And I think with the coaching calls, just also getting other ladies to also believe in themselves, it sort of rubs off on you as well, because it's you're trying to give them belief, and then you think, well, if I'm saying that to them, well, maybe I'm I need to believe that too.
Yes, absolutely. And that's one of the things I love about having a group coaching container, because I see you guys, or you ladies rather, like supporting each other and willing each other to keep going. And so, yeah, naturally you then say, well, if I'm saying this to her, I could totally do that. Or when you see someone else who's taken bold action and they're in your group, it then empowers you to, I saw her a few weeks ago on a call where she was having doubts, and now I've seen her go and take action. And I feel like that boosts my my belief in what's possible. And I think that's a big piece, because if you don't believe that you can do it, then you're not going to take the action that's required to make it happen.
Yeah.
So I love it. I absolutely love it. So where are you now, Maddy? Like in terms of your thought process and in terms of clarifying, because I think when we first started speaking, you had some ideas about what you might want to do, but you weren't sure. How are you feeling now around the direction that you're moving towards, and what clarity have you gained over the last few months?
Yeah, so I think I've got a clear direction now, which is great. I think sort of working through that list of brainstorming all the art of the possible, and then looking at it and going, well, how do things fit? So one thing we talked about right at the beginning is, where I am in terms of the stage of my life. I wanted to not necessarily be working, sort of 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, that I'm starting to sort of want to go slightly down, being a bit more relaxed about how and when I work. And I think when you sort of created that sort of list of, all the jobs, and, I've had a dream to sort of, run a really busy pub in London. Well, that just doesn't fit with what I want to do now. And you start to sort of take those away and then look at sort of, well, what's left? How does that fit with everything I've gone through, the looking inside and my skills, etc. So I think now I'm quite clear on the direction. How to implement it is going to be interesting. I'm just at the phase where sort of I'm trying to create my story. I've actually borrowed a book off a friend of How to Write Your Story. So I'm started reading that as well. I've obviously looked through the videos that you've provided and the resources. That it's difficult, but I'm spending a lot of time, and each day I think I sort of add to my story in my head, and it's starting to actually become a bit. Yeah, I think I'm sort of getting there in terms of my story of how I got to where I am. Why sort of moving into the area that I want to move into is important.
Yeah, I love that. And I think for anyone who's wondering about the story, it's just recognizing that you in your career, you've been through various different phases, you've had lots of experience. And so you have a story around your experience and what you're able to bring to the world. And when you're clear on that story and you know how to articulate it, that's what can make it easier for you to connect the dots between what you were doing before and then what you want to go in to do. And I think it's interesting because the way that the program is structured is we start off with helping you determine like what is it that I want to do. And you've done a lot of work so far to get to that place where you can now say, okay, this is what I want to do. So now we're shifting into, okay, well then now how do we make that happen? So I'm excited for you to like unpack that and see that you have so much in your toolkit to help you to get to the role that you've identified, because it's not like massively different. It's not going to be that hard. But yeah, just going through the process. And one of the reasons why I wanted to interview you is because you really have been diligent in like trusting the process. So I'm interested to hear from you. Have there been any moments in the program where you've been like, why is she asking me to do this? Because it seems as though you've just been trusting the process, implementing and moving forward, from my perspective.
Yeah, so I think there were definitely times when you sort of go through it. And I mean, one of the biggest things for me that I struggled with, I think, is even right at the very start. I think one of the first lessons was, writing to yourself when you're 75 and sort of saying, well, what would I like to achieve? And I found that really, really challenging, maybe because I'm a little bit closer to sort of getting that way age-wise, but I just sort of thought, have I achieved everything I want to achieve? And I think if you've been reasonably successful in your career and been the main breadwinner and the children are sort of reasonably rounded, and you think, I've achieved what I want to achieve. But actually then you step back from that and sort of go, have I achieved? What have I do? Is there anything else I want to do? I've done lots of things for my family and made sure everyone is in a good place and secure. But now what's important to me? And actually I think I realised that sort of, my just wanting to get out of bed doing something that I really enjoyed and making myself really proud. I mean, when we spoke at the beginning, and I think a couple of the other ladies on the group have said it, that when people ask them what they do, it's sort of like, oh, well, I only do this. I don't sort of go, wow, I do this, it's amazing. I'm not very particularly proud of it, or, it's been great as a career in terms of it's provided, but it's not something that I would sort of sit at a dinner table and go, wow, I'm a project manager in IT, So I think that was the big driver. And I think the other difficulty for me initially was really understanding to stop worrying about the how. It's very easy to sort of, every time you think about the what, well, how am I going to do that? And I think that was really good. You were very, very clear with me to sort of say, stop worrying about that. Stop worrying about it. We'll worry about that later. Just take your constraints away. Just worry about the what are you going, what do you want to do? What makes you happy? What would you, if there were no constraints there? So that was the biggest challenge is, especially if you're quite practical, you just kind of go, how am I going to do that? And stripping that away was difficult, but actually was then opened up the doors to actually thinking about other things and then allowing yourself to be a bit freer.
Yeah, I love that. And I love what you said there about what do I want? What do I want? Because I think as professional women, as ambitious women, it's so easy to get caught up in the doing and filling all the roles for other people, but not taking the time to really to take stock and say, what do I want? And I think one of the biggest things that this program provides is the space to like really think through what is important to you, and then, allowing you to think in ways that maybe you haven't thought before, so that you can shift your mindset around what you think is possible. So yeah, I love to hear that that's been useful. What would you say have been, knowing the structure of the program and knowing how we guide you through, what have been the most useful elements for you that maybe you expected or you didn't expect as you've been going through the process?
I guess probably. So I think sort of the early phases of the thinking about things was, useful. But I think the most bits that I've found, I think, were the sort of starting to gather data and talking to people, really actually sort of that list of the art of the possible, and really seeing it black and white and going, okay, I've thought about everything. I've now put down 15, 20 different things that I think I would like to do, pulled into all the things that have crossed my mind before. And some of them were sort of a bit whacking way out. I like sewing, so it's like, am I going to sit here and sew for the rest of my life? But actually putting that big list down and then working its way through and talking to someone. I mean, one of the things I had on my list when I talked to someone, I took it off. I took it off quite quickly. So we talked about events management, and I talked to someone you put me in contact with, and actually I just very quickly worked out that it was something would probably be great and fun, but just not for me now. Maybe in the past, because the lady I talked to was, when I gathered that data and I looked at it, she said there's lots of weekend working. That's when most of the events happen. And I was like, well, I just don't want to do that. That's fine. So that data gathering, although it's difficult to do because you have to step out of your comfort zone and talk to people, was really useful. And it definitely was, I think, for me, the bit that was really offered that clarity to go, right, now I can I have a direction after these. And it was very different to the direction that I thought coming into that phase that I would come out with. Yeah. So yeah, that was probably the most useful, interesting step.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you did, because it can be one of the hardest steps, but gathering the data so that you can make a data-driven decision about what to do next is gold. Because when you make the decision, it isn't just you make it and then you wonder whether it's the right decision. It's like you've done it based on data, you've done it based on information. And when you make that decision, it's easier to feel convicted that, okay, at least for right now, this is the path that I'm going to follow. So I'm so glad that you were diligent in executing it so that you could get that data. So Maddy, if there's anyone who's at a crossroads in their career and they've been considering the Career Clarity Academy program, what would you say to them?
I would just say, don't wait 15 years like I did. Just act on it now. And also that you have nothing to lose. I mean, I was talking to a friend the other day and saying, do I have the courage to go through phases 3 and 4 and actually really do this? And she said, of course you do. But even if you don't, you've made a choice. And that was really something that when I reflected back, all those career moves I've made, very few of them have been with active choice. They've been because I've, wanted to find a different challenge, or I've been a bit bored, but very little and very few of them have actually been really positive choices that I've weighed up and decided to do. And I think that speaks volumes. So you have nothing to lose, because you don't have to do anything at the end of it. I can turn around at the end of this and go, do you know what, I'm going to go back to project management. It's fine, but it's been a great exercise. And that will be a choice I've made with more information coming in. So you have nothing to lose. So I would say just go for it.
Yeah. Love it. Okay, so what are you most excited about now? So you're kind of halfway through the program now. So what?
Yeah. So I think just starting to see, how the next phases help make that sort of dream and belief start to be a bit more real. Can I really, really do this? There's still that point where you sort of think, I'm worrying about the how, and now I've started to think about the how, but I haven't got to the end of that phase. So I'm still sort of going, oh, how am I going to do this? But I am starting to sort of really, think about it a bit more and actually sort of go, yeah, this is the new me. I can do this. It's a bit scary still, but I'm still really excited to work my way through and see what the future brings.
Yeah, and thanks for sharing that as well, Maddy, around the feelings that you're having, because I think sometimes when people are thinking about making a career change, they're waiting for the feeling of being scared or nervous to go away before they start. But the reality is the feeling doesn't go away. You just push through it. You just decide that, I know I feel a bit uncomfortable here, but I'm going to do it anyway. Or there is fear around the unknown, but I'm going to do it anyway. And so it's really good to kind of speak to you at this stage in the process, before you've got to the stage where you've landed a role, but where you've got that clarity, because you've only got here because you decided to keep going, even though the feelings that came up for you were like, oh, uncomfortable. You pushed through. So now you've got the clarity that you need to then move to the space. So
yeah. Oh, I'm sure there's lots more fear on the way. So bring it on.
Bring it on. So yeah, thank you so much, Maddy, for just coming and sharing your perspective. I appreciate it. And I hope anyone who's been feeling nervous about making a career change feels a little bit inspired about just taking that first step and moving towards figuring out what different could look like for you. Even if you've been in your career for like 20 years, like Maddy has, it's still, there's always opportunity for you to take stock and see like what your next move needs to be. So Maddy, thank you for being here. I appreciate you and I look forward to our next coaching call. But until then, yeah, just thank you.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thanks, Janine.
Isn't Maddy just lovely? It was so good talking to her and even better working with her over the past few months. At the time of recording this interview, she was still going through the program and was getting clarity around what path she wanted to take. And she was about to embark on figuring out how to make that a reality. Now, fast forward, and she has landed new opportunities and has a very clear plan for where she wants to go with her career moving forward and how she's going to navigate things over the next 12 to 24 months. And I am so happy for her. If I think back to the initial conversations that we were having before she joined the program and I see where she is now, excited is all I have to say. Very excited and also proud of her for taking the action and doing the hard things to help her to get to where it is that she is today. And when I said at the beginning that I want you to be inspired, know that it's possible for you too. It's possible for you to move from wherever you are right now in your career and however stuck you might be feeling or unsure or confused to being in a place of clarity and excitement and empowerment. So if you want to get yourself on the wait list so that you can find out when we're going to be opening up enrollment for the program again, head over to lightboxcoaching.com/waitlist and you can add your name there and I'll be in touch. That's all from me today. I will speak to you very soon. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Career Changemaker podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, I would love for you to let me know what your biggest takeaway has been. So head over to Instagram, tag me at Career Changemaker, and let me know your thoughts. What did you like most about today's episode? I look forward to hearing from you. Until next time, keep working towards your career goals, and we will speak very soon.